Hello, welcome to our first class of Movement ABCs. In this class, we're going to learn the building blocks to healthy posture and sustainable movement. So for the first 3 weeks, we'll focus on 3 main parts of the body: the spine, the hips, and then the shoulders, and how those relate to the other parts. We'll do a small flow focusing on each of those in those 3 classes, and then the final 3 classes will be just flowing together using the concepts and the movements that we've learned during the beginning. So some of the goals of the type of yoga that I teach are promoting the mind-body connection and also just bringing more functional movement into our lives so that we have better stability and mobility in all the activities that we do. So that's kind of where these movements and these flows come from. Some helpful props you can have are, this is a yoga strap. If you don't have one, you could use a belt or even a scarf, something that you can wrap around a limb if we need to, or use as tension. And then this is a yoga block. These are foam. You can also get cork ones, which are a little bit heavier. And we'll use these occasionally, but if you don't have them, then, no worries. We can always make do. And then a towel or a blanket, which we'll mostly use for padding when we're down on our knees. And that's really just your choice if that makes it more comfortable for you. So our bodies tend to take the path of least resistance. So we're wired to conserve energy. And that means sometimes moving in ways that put a lot of pressure on certain parts and eventually cause pain or kind of wearing down of those areas. We see that a lot in the low back. There's low back problems all over. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but some of it is just due to a lack of healthy posture and movement in our whole spine. And so since we're going to be focusing on the spine today, some of our main goals with the spine are to extend the spine and give space between each vertebrae. And some of that has to do with learning what healthy posture is, because it can be confusing. There's a lot of messages out there. The other goals are bringing mobility to the spine. And so, like I said, we tend to bend and turn in our low back a lot. But that's actually one of the least mobile parts of our spine. Your cervical spine, where your neck is, and your thoracic spine, which is your mid-back in between your shoulder blades, actually has a lot more ability for movement. And that area especially tends to get kind of frozen or ignored. So today we'll do some work on bringing mobility into that. But as we flow through the weeks, you'll see how that's incorporated too. The other thing we focus on is stabilizing the spine. So your spine affects your balance in many ways, and developing a strong and stable core, which the core, if you think of, kind of from the collarbones all the way down to the bottom of your pelvis, developing a healthy, strong, and functional core is going to help protect your spine and add to your mobility and overall balance in your body. So that's kind of what we're going to look at, but let's start with just a simple analysis of posture. If you want to go ahead to your mat and take out your yoga belt or scarf, whatever you're going to use today. And we're going to work on just lining up the body and what's called stacking the bones. So in proper alignment, it's important to have your bones, they call it stacked on top of each other. And this puts you in a more stable position for balance and for your overall functioning of your body. It also loads your bones effectively so that you're not producing wear and tear on your joints unnecessarily. So to take some of the confusion about what it actually means to stand up straight or have good posture, this can be a helpful way to just kind of check. You want to find your your hip bone right there where your the joint attaches to your hip socket. You can usually kind of feel that sticking out. And hold the strap down so that it extends down your leg. And you want the strap in a normal standing position to dangle straight down so that the bottom of the strap is right at your ankle. So this is really helpful to do if you can see yourself in the camera, or if not, to do it in front of a mirror, or even just have someone look at it for you. Sometimes it's hard to tell if you're just looking down. But many of us have what's called a pelvic thrust, where you tend to stand more like this, or a pelvic tilt, where you're actually kind of sticking your butt out and hinging in your low back. So either one of these, if you have a pelvic tilt, the strap is going to fall more forward. If you have a pelvic thrust, it's also going to fall forward, because either way your hip bone is sticking out further than your ankle. So you want to bring your weight back into your heels enough so that your toes are still on the ground, but the strap falls straight. And if you can get a feel for the way that feels, and you may need to, look in a mirror, practice a few times, that's where you want your hips to land over your ankle when you're just standing even and straight. From there, in the torso, it's important to line up your shoulder to your hip. So you kind of have this whole straight line going down, and then your ear to your shoulder. So that usually involves a little bit of tucking the chin slightly and extending it back. So you can feel the cervical spine, which is the back of your neck, sticking out of your neck. And so you can feel that. Most of us, when you're just in a relaxed position, we have a forward slump. Our heads go forward. And that's been conditioned a lot from sitting in chairs our whole lives and at desks. But when you do that, you can easily feel that cervical spine go back in, and there's more of a slope. So you want to tuck the chin slightly and extend it back so that you can feel that. And this can all feel kind of awkward the first time you're doing it, so don't feel alone if you're kind of like, what? That's a weird way to stand. But as you practice and kind of check your posture throughout the day, helps to have these different checkpoints, or it has helped me. So placing your weight back into your heels, slightly tucking the chin and extending it back. And then you want to be careful of keeping your ribs lined up over your pelvis. And so this is a theme in all different movements or planes of motion we'll be in, that it's kind of a cue, I'll say, is tuck the ribs in. So of course you don't want to bend them in, but you want them to stay in line over your hips and not produce a rib flare. It's a common misconception that when we stand up straight, you puff your chest out, or sometimes as a way to get more, or to pretend like you have more mobility in your arms and reaching up, will flare the ribs out instead of keeping them tucked down and straight in line over the hips. So you can kind of see the difference. If I keep my ribs down and lift my arm up, I'm not moving my back. I'm not hinging in my back. If I lift the ribs up, I might be able to get my arm higher, but now suddenly I have this slope in my back. And so that's not bad. Our bodies are clearly made to be able to do that. But when we're doing that all the time, it puts a lot of pressure on our back because we lose stability. Whereas if you're staying aligned, you're going to be stronger and have better balance and overall core strength. So hopefully some of that makes more sense as we go along and as you practice. But otherwise, let's go ahead and move into our flow for the spine. So we can continue on the mat. Let's go ahead and begin seated. So if it's comfortable for you to just sit on the ground, you can begin like that. If you have a hard time sitting on the floor in a cross-legged position, it can be very helpful to sit on a block or even on a pillow, and it can be a little less hard on your hips or your knees. So find a position that's comfortable for you and begin to bring your awareness to your breath. Just observe your inhale and exhale. You can let your eyes gently gaze on a specific spot, or if you're comfortable closing them, feel free to do that. You can notice the sounds around you and just let them be. Feel your sit bones resting on the floor and the ground holding you up beneath you. Inhale and exhale fully out. And maybe you notice the position of your hands resting on your legs or dangling onto the floor. And notice how you feel in your body right now. My hope is always that as we learn to gain stability in our minds and our bodies, that we'll be there to steady others when they need it to. I am breathing in and I am breathing out. If you have your eyes closed, why don't you go ahead and open them and bring your hands to your rib cage. Kind of holding on to, I have my thumbs hooked in the back. If that's uncomfortable, they could also be in the front. But get a feel for where your rib cage is. Might be able to feel how far your ribs go down. And just under the breastbone, where they separate. And then go ahead and hug each side. We're going to practice a 360-degree breath. This is also called diaphragmatic breath. So what we're practicing is moving the diaphragm up and down as we breathe and breathing into the chamber of the ribs or the core. So as you inhale through your nose or through your mouth, if that's better for you, try to extend the ribs a full 360 degrees. So what I mean by that is as you inhale, see if you can feel the ribs extend outwards, and then exhale as the ribs contract back down. As you inhale, see if you can bring your breath more to the front this time. And exhale, let the ribs contract. This time as you inhale, see if you can bring the breath to the back of your ribs, closer around your spine. And exhale. And then try to take a full breath, 360 degrees, filling all those parts that we just talked about. Experiment with taking a couple more breaths on your own like that. And think about also keeping your chin slightly tucked in and pull your chin back a little bit like we talked about before, keeping your cervical spine in alignment as you do it. And then thinking about a straight line from the base of your skull all the way down to your sacrum, which is the bottom of your tailbone. And then you can leave your hands around your rib cage or place them onto your legs. Keep that alignment in your spine, keeping the chin slightly tucked and pushed back. And this time as you breathe, try to bring your breath into the back of your neck on your inhale. Exhale fully out. I like to breathe in my nose, out my mouth, but if that's not available to you today, there's no one right way to breathe. This time as you inhale, think about bringing the breath to your thoracic spine, which is your mid-back, especially in between your shoulder blades. Notice if one part is easier to sense than another. And then as you breathe in, bring your breath to your lumbar spine, your low back, and exhale fully. Take one more full inhale and exhale. And then go ahead and make sure you're in alignment still, keeping your chin slightly tucked and pushed back so you can feel that cervical spine in the back of your neck. And as you stay in the position, you're going to slowly turn your head to the right. Now, normally when you turn your head, most people also move their head forward. So if I'm just not thinking about it and turning, I'll go like this. And my whole body might sway and my chin kind of pushes forward as I look to the other side. So in alignment, you want to really keep your chin tucked and slightly back. And it may feel like you're lessening your mobility, but actually you're just moving the mobility to the actual spine, giving it a good stretch. So keeping that alignment, look to the right, inhale, and exhale. Come back to center and then to the left. Doing the same thing. One side might be more stiff than the other. Inhale, and exhale back to center. We'll go back to the right side. Inhale, keeping the chin slightly tucked and back. Exhale, and to the left. Inhale, and exhale, keeping the shoulders relaxed, trying not to scrunch them up to your ears. Let's do one more time. To the right, center, and to the left. And back to center. This time continuing to keep your spine in alignment. We're going to drop the right ear to the right shoulder. Again, being careful not to scrunch up your shoulder, keeping it dropped, and keeping that position so your chin is still slightly tucked, providing more of a stretch in your neck. And up, and then to the left side. And back up to the right, keeping the chin back, and to center, and to the left. And back to center. Now go ahead and place your hands on your rib cage again, and we're gonna do a side bend. So continuing to keep that same spinal alignment from your neck all the way to your sacrum. You're going to just gently bend to the right. So think about trying not to move any other parts, but bringing your rib cage down towards your hip. Inhale into the left side body, and exhale back to center, and then come down to the left. Think about trying to make your left shoulder and your left hip touch. Inhale into the right side, Try not to scrunch up the shoulders. Relax the face and come back up. And we'll do right side again. Keeping that chin tucked, shoulders relaxed. Coming back to center. Realign yourself and then to the left. Inhale and exhale. Coming back to center. Let's do one more to the right. Checking your alignment. Relaxing your other parts. Inhale and exhale. And to the left. And then coming back up. And then keeping your hands over your rib cage, or if that's getting uncomfortable, you can set them down. That's more of just a check to really tune in with your rib cage. But reestablishing your alignment, making sure your spine is growing long and straight. And then we're going to do a thoracic rotation. So trying to bring more rotation into the mid-back. Most of us, when we turn, we'll use our neck and we'll use our waist. So there's lots of turning from the lumbar spine and the cervical spine, but the thoracic spine gets kind of left out, and we're actually made to have quite a bit of mobility and strength there, which is going to help stabilize the overall spine. So I find it helpful to still hold my rib cage. Reestablish your alignment, and then you're going to turn just your rib cage to the right, almost like you're unscrewing the lid of a jar. So the pelvis stays forward. You have hip points right here where your hip bones stick out. Those should be like headlights of a car, beams shooting straight forward, okay? So the lights are stay straight forward even as you turn, and keep your chin in line with your sternum. So it's really just a turn from the rib cage. Inhale and exhale, back to center, and then to the right, or to the left. Inhale and exhale, back to center, recheck your alignment, chin is tucked, hips are straight, and screw the lid of the jar to the right. Take a full breath, and then to the left. Being careful to keep your chin lined up over your sternum. And back to center. Do a couple more times on each side at your own pace. Remembering to check your alignment and keep your shoulders relaxed, your face relaxed. And back to center. And then finally, you can place your hands back on your legs. Recheck your alignment. And we're going to do a seated cat-cow. Some of you are familiar with cat-cow, where you're rounding and then arching the spine. And so as you do that, you're going to start from the base of your spine and tuck your tailbone down, rounding at the bottom of your spine, and then trying to think about each vertebrae. You have 33 vertebrae. So try to go up your mental picture of your spine and bring some movement into each vertebrae as you go until you go all the way up to the base of your skull. And then tilt your tailbone so it's pointing towards the back wall as much as possible. And then bring an arch into each vertebrae, walking all the way up your spine. Still keeping your chin slightly tucked, so that you're just elongating the spine. You're not just craning your neck. But there's a full arch in my back. Let me turn so you can see me from the side too. So then, gonna tuck your tailbone down, bringing rounding to the base of the spine and then to the center. all the way up to the base of your skull, and then tilt your tailbone, bringing an arch to your back, to the mid-back, all the way up to the cervical spine. Think about reaching your breastbone forward. And then tuck the tailbone, rounding into each vertebrae, and tilt the tailbone. Go ahead and do a couple more on your own at your own pace. Noticing if there's any spots in your spine that you can't really sense. And focusing more on those. And then come back to center, and we're going to come on to all fours. If your knees are sensitive, this is a great time to use the towel, place it under your knees for padding. Otherwise, your hands should be about shoulder width apart onto the mat, knees are about hips width apart, and your legs are in a 90-degree angle. So press into your mat with both hands, spreading your shoulder blades out wide. And think about turning your elbow pits towards the wall in front of you. Now we're going to do the same cat-cow movements, but in tabletop position. So point your tailbone down towards the ground, bringing a rounding into your back, walking along each vertebrae, and then tilt your tailbone up towards the sky, bringing that arch. Try not to scrunch your shoulders up towards your ears as you flow at your own pace. And keep your face relaxed and your feet gently resting on the mat. You can inhale as you arch if you'd like, and exhale as you round, seeing if there's any sticky spots in your spine, and continuing to push onto the mat with both hands. And back to center. And then we're going to do that same side bend in this tabletop position. So again, press your hands into the mat, spreading the shoulder blades wide, and try to turn those elbow pits towards the front of the room or the wall in front of you. And think about squeezing your right shoulder and your right hip together without moving any other parts. So try not to arch your back when you do this, like here's my back arched in doing that. We're just going to keep it neutral for now, turning the right side toward the right hip. Coming back to center, and left shoulder towards left hip. Back to center, right shoulder towards right hip. Center, left side. Let's go one more time on each side. And then back to center. Come on up if you want to roll out your wrists. Kind of giving them a break from being on all fours because we're going to go back to it now. So back into tabletop position. Press your hands into the mat and let the elbow pits reach towards the wall in front of you. And without shifting the rest of your body, bring your right arm extended in front of you. So it's natural when we do this to kind of lean into the other side, but you want to stay level and strong. Try not to move your pelvis or your shoulders from the height that they're at. Just extend your right arm in front of you. Bring it back down to the mat and do the same thing, just extend the left arm in front of you. Really press into the mat with the opposite hand. Come back down. Now pressing into the mat with both hands and keeping the pelvis level, bring your right leg behind you. So in this also, it's typical to tilt the pelvis. You can get your leg higher up, but we're going to focus on keeping a neutral spine and pelvis so it stays straight. Your leg won't seem like it's going up as much, but it's going to be more strengthening for you. So to practice into the left side, reestablish your position, and plants are in the way. Bring the left leg back and bring it down. Press into the mat with both hands. Make sure your pelvis is steady and strong. Bring the right arm forward and the left leg back. So the hips don't move. They're staying straight over the ground. Press into the mat with your left hand. Bring your limbs back down. Now extend your left arm, right leg. Again, being mindful of your pelvis and pressing that right hand into the ground. And back down. Right arm, left leg. Bring it back down. Left arm, right leg. Bring it back down. So the key here is really keeping that what's called neutral pelvis, so that your hip points now, like the lights of a car, are shooting right down towards the ground and they don't move. You don't want them to wobble as much as possible. So keeping your spine straight and long, pressing to the mat with both hands. Let's continue in that flow. You can do it at your own pace, but you do opposite hand, opposite leg. Bringing back, left arm, right leg. Bring it back down. You can exhale as you extend out. And in, exhale as you extend out. You can bring even more stability to your pelvis. Try to feel your abdominals contract when you do that exhale, and extend. Opposite hand, opposite leg. Relax your face and your jaw, bringing all your energy to the moving parts. Wherever you're at, see if you can do 2 more on each side. Then coming back to center, tucking your toes and lifting your hips into a downward dog form. You can paddle out the feet, stretching the calves, and continuing to press into the mat with both hands. As you do that, bring your hips forward into plank. Take an inhale and exhale. Press back into downward dog. Exhale, forward into plank. Back into downward dog. And again, forward into plank. So this time, place your knees down to the ground and lower yourself all the way down. Bring your arms out in front of you so that your forearms are on the ground. Hands are resting on the mat. And press your elbows into the ground so that it spreads your shoulder blades. And make sure that your pelvic bone is pressing into the mat. So not too hard, we don't want to hurt ourselves, But keep that pelvic bone kind of glued to the mat, and that will keep your spine in a stable position. And then try to extend the spine straight and long. So chin is still slightly tucked, and your forehead is just kind of moving out forward. Not creating an arch in the spine, but elongating the spine. So it's important to keep that pelvic bone glued to the ground and extend the spine long. Inhale and exhale back down. Placing your forehead to the mat. And then again, coming back up, keeping your pelvic bone on the mat and extending the spine forward and long. Press your elbows into the mat to spread the shoulder blades. Inhale and exhale. Come back up to your knees and into a child's pose. Inhale and exhale. And then we're going to come back up onto your sit bones, bringing your legs in front of you, and we'll roll ourselves down to a supine position, but take your time doing this. So you can tuck your tailbone and kind of one vertebrae at a time again. You're welcome to hold on to your knees or have your arms at your side. See if you can go down slowly and challenge yourself. Pausing in the middle until you're all the way down. Get in a comfortable position, getting used to lying down on the floor. Because we're going to do a little more work here. So now we want to find that neutral spine position when we're lying down. So to do that, you want to tuck your tailbone so that your low back presses down onto the mat. And then tilt your tailbone so that there's a big space in between the back, your low back and the mat. Do that a few times and just rolling back and forth. And then find a space in between those two where your low back is still lightly or gently off the ground. It's not touching. But there's also not a huge space, and your spine is in a neutral position. Now from here, you want to keep that neutral position without shifting your pelvis, and so now those hip points are shooting headlights straight up to the ceiling. You're going to lift your right leg up, keeping it at an angle. It helps to hold on to those hip points, being careful not to shift them or tilt them. And then lift your left leg. This time as you do that, you're going to exhale out as you lift the right leg. And think about your leg being heavy, heavy, heavy without shifting your hips. So inhale and exhale. Bring it back down. Inhale and exhale. The leg is heavy, heavy, heavy on the left side. Bring it back down. So sometimes to compensate for having to work the legs like this, we'll press the low back into the ground to bring the leg up. And that's what you want to avoid doing. Keep that neutral spine. Bring the leg up without moving anything else. Bring it back down. Again, you can inhale and exhale, bringing the left leg up. So you may know where this is going. Exhale, bring the right leg up and lift the left arm up. And then exhale to bring the left leg up and join it, and let's bring the right leg up. So now we're still keeping the spine in that neutral position. You're not rounding your back onto the ground. And even just holding here might be enough for some people, and that is great stability work. If you're comfortable, we're going to bring some movement to it. So let's inhale and exhale, using that to feel a contraction into your lower abdomen. And doing it again. Inhale, and this time as you exhale and contract into the lower abs, you're going to extend your right leg and your left arm. Bring it back up with the next exhale. So we're actually going to go inhale, right arm out, left leg out. Exhale, bring it back. Inhale, right leg out, left arm out. Exhale, bring it back. Inhale, right arm out, left leg out. Bring it back. And you get the gist now. Right leg, left arm. Continue at your own pace. You can hold them longer if you want, or go faster. But remembering to stay mindful of that low back, staying in a neutral position. And using the exhale to bring your limbs back together. Wherever you're at, see if you can do 2 more on each side. And then let your limbs come down, your arms, your legs come down. Spread your feet a little wider than hips width apart, and you can just gently let your hips fall to each side. Kind of bringing some gentle mobility after that stabilizing work. And then come back to center. We're not quite done yet. And keeping your feet on the mat and legs bent about hips width apart. Press your feet into the mat to bring your hips up off the ground. Just the small ways. We don't have to go into a big back bend. But pressing the feet into the mat, arms are gently resting on the mat. And your hips are lifting up. See if you can squeeze your heels towards your buttocks without actually moving your feet. Do a full inhale with that 360-degree breath. And exhale. And gently lower your hips back down. Make sure you stay in that neutral spine. And then pressing your feet into the mat to bring your hips up off the ground. Let them rise as the feet press into the mat. And then think about shifting your heels towards your buttocks without actually moving your feet. Inhale and exhale. And let's keep this for a few more breaths. Relax your face, your shoulders, and let all the energy go to those hamstrings and your hips working for you. This is a great strengthening exercise for your whole backside. And then gently lower back down. Again, you can spread your feet a little wider apart and let your legs fall to the right. Open up your left leg to fall to the left side and let your right leg follow. And just flow like that. Bringing some stretching into the hips and letting yourself relax onto the mat. legs to the right and letting them rest there for a few breaths. And then bringing your legs to the left and resting there. When you're ready, you can go ahead and extend the legs if that's a comfortable resting position for you, or leave your legs bent. And let your body rest onto the mat. Feeling your face relax, your shoulders relax. Feel your spine relax and your ribs, your belly. Let the hips relax and your quads, your calves, down to your ankles, your heels, and your toes. Take a full breath in and exhale all the way out. And let yourself just rest. I'm going to sit up and read you a quote, but I encourage you to stay in a resting position for 10 minutes or more if you can, letting your body really rest after that practice and balance out your nervous system. Thank you for practicing with me today. I look forward to next time. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. That space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and freedom. Viktor Frankl. Peace and hope to you today.